Yeah.
Let's begin.
Yeah, please.
So, welcome all. So, today's question answer session. So, myself, Jyotish Das, I am spiritual and also by my official name, Dr. Jyotiranjan Behera. So, today we are extremely fortunate to have with us Professor Laxmidhar Behera. Professor Laxmidhar Behera. So, just a brief introduction of Professor Behera. So, he's a Poonam and Prabhu Goyal Chair Professor at Department of Electrical Engineering, Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. His areas of specialization includes varieties of topics. Primarily, he works on robotics and AI. He has done extensive work in the following field like intelligent systems and control, cognitive robotics, nano-robotics, vision-based control, soft computing, information retrieval in music and language. Recently, his team produced a few researches on effects of music in different ways. So it's very interesting. And he's also working on semantic information processing. He also deals with physics of complex systems, cyber physical systems, formation control, and UAVs, brain-computer interface, BCI, and also Sanskrit computational linguistics. This is not the only list. The whole list can be elaborated lot and lot. So today we are extremely fortunate. We had the opportunity to hear Professor Behera in our last conference, Jigyasa, on 18th and 19th. I hope all of you attended that and you must have enjoyed the discussions and the talks. So this is a follow-up question answer session. So Professor Behera kindly agreed for starting the question answers. So extremely fortunate and grateful to him. So let us welcome Professor Behera to today's meeting. And I'm sure all of you must have many questions regarding the functionalities, how the nature is working, the subtle mysteries. So today we titled the topic as Decoding the Hidden Mystery of Nature and basically learning from principles that is there in Samkhya. So let us welcome Professor Behera. So he would shortly, he's setting up his things. So he would start his session. And yeah, he's there with us. So we welcome Professor Behera. So yeah, you can, the stage is over to you, sir. So you can begin. Maybe, how do we go about?
So thank you, Jyotishwar. Thank you, Jyotishwar Prabhu, and Prem Kishore also is there. Okay.
Thanks, sir.
All right. So welcome everyone. Please, it's a question answer session. So my job should be as easy as possible because I don't have to think question, I have to think answer. So let us see who you do the difficult job. So anybody?
Maybe, sir, if you could maybe say a few words, maybe 5 minutes about Sankhya and the mysteries of nature, how Vedic science can help us. So you can, people can get some food for thought, so they can start asking, so that or we can read out the questions, and we also have some questions from our side also, from somebody contacted.
Yeah, last time we discussed mind-body simulation. We talked about that how the popular notion is mind means brain in action. Is that so? This is I refuted this because like this idea, this argument that people have is that if you cut your finger, your personality doesn't change, but when there is a brain injury, your personality changes. there may be personality disorder, but the point is that you still have the memory, your understanding of you as a person is there. There are operational disorder, but you as a person still intact. So yes, mind and brain may be closer, but mind is still beyond the brain. So this is the point we discussed, that how that the mental element is spread throughout the body, and hence not only brain, even the body, the cells, they are extension of mind. Every personality has a different body cells, and different body cells has a different kind of taste. Certain things a specific body likes and another body rejects. We know this, So the question here is, how do we take the idea of Bhagavat Samkhya, where we can explain? And I gave you so many examples. I gave you examples of, throwing a ball and breaking the glass. So what we can do is that we can only explain the ball released from your hand breaking the glass, but we cannot explain the intentionality. The intention was there that one wants to break the glass window using the ball. So the conclusion was that as of now in modern science, we are trying to explain the psychic matter in terms of laws of biology, physics, and chemistry, but we need to develop the laws of mind, laws of semantics, because that will be more fundamental than the laws of physics or chemistry. And there is a necessity, right? So I hope this much should be sufficient for all of you to start asking questions.
Yeah.
Any?
I think the participant, they can directly unmute themselves, or if they wish, they can type the questions. So I'll read out for them. So
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Sahab Singh this side. I have one question that regarding, as you said, that one may throwing the ball, but we may not know what is the intention of throwing the ball behind it, breaking the glass or something else. Like the similar, we have our own individual consciousness. Although we spend very close time with the people, we try to understand them, but we're not able to understand their consciousness. So intention is like similar to the consciousness of a individual.
Everything, you say that in the beginning, everything is part of consciousness. And then one part of that consciousness is mind, one part of that consciousness is intelligence, one part of that consciousness is your identity. And of course, you filter everything, and then something still remains perpetually. is the indestructible consciousness. And they are so well mixed in the beginning. Only a person of wisdom, can discern one aspect from another aspect. Not only that, my ability to see, ability to hear, ability to smell, taste, all these things, all part of this same one word is consciousness. But then consciousness is not just one thing, it is so big in that sense, because we use it in so many ways, ever trying to understand, because anything that goes beyond the objectivity, okay, and takes the subjective nature, then we always put in one basket called consciousness. But then, science cannot understand consciousness in one go. We have to drag out or dig out one by one. It's not that we can understand mind as of now. What we can understand is that there is a semantic element within the matter. Matter is cognitive. Okay, as of now, even the current scientists, they have no idea, because for them everything is matter. At least in Indian tradition, we realize that this body is not only matter, there is also spirit. But in the traditional way, nobody knows that matter is also cognitive. So how do we unravel different aspects of cognition that are embedded within the matter? So that is the subject matter of research, probably in this century. So earlier, people thought cognition is a part of non-physical thing, but cognition is also part of physical thing. That's the distinction. And these are ideas that are there in Bhagavat Samkhya, in our Srimad Bhagavatam, in Bhagavad Gita also, and many other literature. These points are being talked about. Next.
In this connection, can I ask a question? So the Sankhya philosophy that we hear, it seems to be a holistic framework, but our modern scientific practices, they are quite reductionist in nature. So how does you are saying we should build a science, but then the science would still remain the reductionist. So how do we fit in? The holistic framework within a reductionist framework. Don't you see a conflict between both of them?
No, it's not a conflict in the sense that we have to recognize that the whole cannot be captured the way it is within any empirical science. So it doesn't mean that part-wise we cannot capture it. So that is the point, because science is like that. Because once you see empiric, that means you have to make a measurement.
Right.
Okay. In Vedanta, you cognize everything as a whole. So there is no fragmentation. So where the experience and experiencer, the fuse, they're one. In empiric science, we have an experiencer and then we have the experience. what is in modern science, that in modern science only there is experience, there is no experience. In modern science, we don't understand what is an experience. We only talk about experience. And although there is the notion of observer that has penetrated through quantum mechanics, but it is still in a very
limited.
So this is yes, the empirical science, because anything that we want to study within empirical science, there is a measurement. We have to have data. You have to have data. So how do you get the data? Okay. So that means you must disturb the system. Any kind of measurement means you are disturbing the system. And hence, when you disturb the system, obviously you are fragmenting, you are destroying its holistic nature. So, and without data, we can never make a science. But that is what is the science, because empiric science is necessary. Why it is necessary? Because very few people at any point of time have the capability to see the truth and in an unfragmented manner. And hence, the majority will lose an opportunity to see the truth. So hence, to make them, so they can access the truth in the way they can do so, empirical science is a boon, it's a blessing. There are many aspects of empirical science which are blessings in guise, because otherwise the society would have embraced, in the name of holism, so many ideas of superstition, all kind of speculative ideas that have no basis, because we have no way to validate things that we are saying. See, one thing is that whatever Bhagavat, Samkhya, or Vedanta is saying, you validate. How do you validate? If you are qualified. And so that means you have to transcend your senses and everything, and then you see the truth, which is very tough for maximum people. So our attempt to bring, and the cognitive element within the matter also has a fragmentation. Otherwise, why we say mind, intelligence, and falsity? There is a fragmentation. There is a fragmentation as well. Okay, so fragmentation, when I say diversity actually, in this sense. And you see in Bhagavat, Samkhya, everything is a derivative, right? So my earth, water, air, fire, ether, although they are diverse, but they are all derivative from one element called sound. Okay, it is sound that gave rise to the element called ether. Ether gave rise to air. Air gave rise to fire. So in that sense, in sound, everything was there. And then there was a transformation, process of transformation by which these elements came from the sound. So these ideas, they are in Bhagavat, Samkhya. And so the beauty here is that I can study earth uh, mm, in an objective manner as a carrier of smell. But Bhagavat Samkhya says in earth, sound is there. In earth, the akasa is there, the ether is there. In earth, all other elements are there in earth itself. So these are all profound concepts. So that means when I'm looking at earth, if I have a specific equipment by which I can manipulate earth, that means simultaneously I'm holding all 5 elements together. But an earth as an element is a cognitive element because it carries a semantic element within it called smell. That's why it is cognitive. So these ideas are not there within the current science. And these are all physical ideas. These are not spiritual ideas. These are all material knowledge. These are all knowledge about the world in which we live. So now how do we bring out these ideas through empirical process by which we can build an environment around us that is holistic, more holistic than what we are now. And holism has no, it's not one homogeneous direction. It is full of diversity when we talk about the holism. So in so many ways, we are fragmented, we are also holistic. And level of that holism has to be extended, right? So so this is what we should do. So that is why this idea of simultaneous one and different, which is there in Gaudiya Vaishnava Vedanta, is very, very important, because simultaneously the body is one with mind. Simultaneously the brain is one with mind. But mind survives the body. Even when body is destroyed, mind still stays. Brain is destroyed, mind still stays. The same idea that we talk about, when the body is destroyed, something survives. And we immediately talk about what is that survives the death is soul. That's a popular idea in Indian society. But even the body, something survives beyond body, beyond cell and mind, brain, is also mind. So the first, you see, there are different level of cognition. Cognition at the level of earth can be studied very easily. Cognition at the level of water or fire, these can be studied separately. And that is why the empirical science is good, that supports us. We don't have to, of course, one who knows the absolute truth, he knows everything. That is a complete holistic way. But we can also try to understand, from empiric science perspective, one level of cognition, then next level, next level, next level. So that gives also an idea how to be imaginative or contemplative when we approach the absolute. And both balance would give us a complete success in understanding the truth, presenting truth to everyone.
Okay, thank you. I have a few questions received. Here, Professor Srinivas. So he's asking, Hare Krishna, can't we hope to discover laws of semantics independent of the observer? And are there likely to even exist any fundamental laws of semantics if there were no inquirer? Maybe I can add one more question over here. What do you really mean by observer when we talk about semantics and cognition? So maybe you could elaborate on that.
Good, good. Let me explain to you. The observer and observed are both same according to Bhagavat Samkhya. Let me explain. What is an observer? Any observer is made up of three modes: mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. Okay, and what is observed is again mode of passion, mode of ignorance, mode of goodness. So this is, this is so, but there is an interesting idea here that the observer has an identity. Observer has an identity, and observed may or may not have an identity, in general. So this is the distinction when we talk about the material cognitive elements. So what was the first part of the question? Observer and observed. Can you again repeat the question?
Was how we are able to derive such. The question.
Yeah, semantic laws.
Semantic laws. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is semantic laws? It is all that in the parlance of our Bhagavad Gita, we would like to put things in terms of modes, right? This is what is the semantic laws. We can't go beyond that. And this is all, right? The semantic laws, and not only semantic, the semantic laws has two aspects. One is the semantic laws that captures the holism aspect of the truth, holistic aspect of the truth, and semantic laws also gives us or must give us an idea how this holism works with the objective aspect of the matter. So matter has two aspects. One is cognitive aspect, the other is objective aspect, which the science is studying, right? And science has done a great job in studying the objective aspect of the matter. And there must be a relationship between the cognitive aspect of the matter with the objective aspect. So any idea of why you are not sitting there? Any idea of semantic law must take care of these two things. So the connection between cognition and the objectivity of the matter, plus how holistic aspect remain intact. So let me give you a simple idea. Simple idea is that when I am agitated. Let's take simple example. When a kid is not only kid, even we as an adult, when we are too agitated, we may do so many nonsense. We may break the table, we may throw things, destroy. But then, when we get back our cognitive aspect, we get hold of our cognitive aspect, then we compose ourselves, we cool ourselves, we can order ourselves, but we cannot order the disorder that I have created. If something is broken, it's broken. I can't do anything to that, right? So there are two things happening. That as a semantic attribute of mind, which was disturbed, I have got back itself. So that means my semantic idea or state of myself is holism. It can be deformed, but it can come back to its original self. But then it has a connection with the objectivity aspect of the matter. So the agitation here can agitate the objective aspect of matter, and matter is destroyed. And that cannot be composed. So there is a connection. And these things we need to study properly. And what I'm saying is that the psychic aspect of living entity needs to be studied in a much more complete manner for the science to advance further.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a question received privately. So in our current understanding of science, we are so much successful. So then, I mean, it's all reductionist, and we don't talk about any intentionality, no psychic element. So, but in face of that, we don't have a tangible understanding of theory of the semantics. Then do we really need them? Can we not go just like that with the current framework of science as it is advancing?
No, current, see, you have to recognize the current science has achieved what it has to achieve as of now. Every field struggles to be perfected. And perfection has no end. Because after all, everything emanates from the absolute truth, which is infinite. And that is what I say, the world is indescribable. And that is why we try to describe the world. I think last time I had explained this. We in the process of trying to describe an atom, even after 300 years, we are still struggling to understand what is an atom. Or for that matter, what is a cell? And still, everything is still elusive. And that is the nature of trying to understand the truth by empirical means. When we try to understand things in an empirical way, this is what is expected. Now, the question here is that we have many when in the beginning of 19th century, when quantum mechanics came and people started thinking that we really understood everything literally, but then there are things that people didn't notice. which we are noticing now. Every time an empiricist meets with data, a new kind of data, and that is the way of empirical science to progress. It is the data. What is data? Data is experience. You have newer experience. Why somebody becomes spiritual? Because he has a spiritual experience. If somebody doesn't have spiritual experience, one would never come or embrace the path of spirituality. It is the experience that drives. So data means new experience. So you're saying why we are doing this or why we should not do this, it has no meaning. We have new experience. And when we have new experience, new data, I have to explain that. And that is what all about the empiric science. Empiric science means nothing is perfect. There is nothing perfect in empiric science. So that is why within empiric science, we don't bring in God. God means all perfect. So you cannot bring God within the empiric science. But empiric science accommodates all new data, newer form of data. So that is the beauty of the empiric science. So when you have new data, no scientist can say, oh, no. If data is there, experience is there. You see the dream, yes or no? So dream is a data. No, you cannot say a dream is hallucination, dream is hallucination. If you say dream is hallucination, I can also tell everything that you do in the daytime also is a hallucination. So then the empiric science also has no value. Nothing has value. Everything is hallucination. Now we can't live a meaningful life in that way. We have to be pragmatic and we have to accept newer data. And it is good because accepting that we make the science richer. Science richer means we are becoming little, we are not perfect, but we are going in the direction of perfection.
Okay, so thank you so much for nicely explaining this aspect. So we have another question from Subhas Goelji. So he's asking, has science been able to see and measure the electron? So what do you say? I mean, we do talk about such fancy things, but we don't even see them, but still we have kind of faith that this has been measured and seen. So what is the understanding of basically the observation here?
Say, suppose you ask a spiritualist, has he seen the soul? Or has he seen the God? I think these kind of questions are not good questions in my view. It's not whether electron exists or not. What has been proved is that the electronic configuration, right? The electronic configuration, and based on that electronic configuration, we are able to define every element in the physics in a unique way, right? So we start with hydrogen and electronic configuration. Helium, it's another electronic configuration. And with this approach, science has made certain advancement. That advancement you cannot refute. So this, yes, there are There are people who say whether does electron exist. There, if you look at Google, you put does electron exist, you will find many papers on it. Okay, so these are all, that's what I'm saying, that using empiric science, you cannot validate or invalidate anything. But what the empiric science is giving us, like for example, you have fever, empiric science is able to give you a tablet by which your fever subsides. Yes or no? People are getting benefit out of it. Oh, I may say so many things, but when COVID was there, people gave you tablet. You took those tablets. You are relieved of the pain and fever and all those things. How can you negate that?
Right.
So similarly, now the question here is, we are able to take care of these kind of, whether it is a blood pressure problem, temperature problem, we are taking care of, but we are not able to take care of our psychic disorder. This is one of the reasons why I personally have come forward to do this research. Otherwise, I am very happy in going deeper into my own nature and rejoicing there and sharing those values with others. I'm very happy. But I can tell you, psychic disorder is going to be a big major problem for the coming generations. And unless we have a proper theory and proper technique to cure them, it will be very tough. It's a challenge. There is a catastrophic situation coming. And I envision this Bhagavat Samkhya will have a great rendering in developing the paradigm of how to tackle the mental health. Mental health has no medicine as of now, because people don't know. People have studied non-cognitive matter, but they have not studied cognitive matter. So you have to study cognitive matter to address the mental health. So I'm just giving you one idea, one aspect. And there are so many other aspects also we can talk about. But just one aspect I told you, what makes me to study, or why I am motivated to study this. In my own lab, I have at least a couple of students who entered into deep depression, and I have seen their suffering. For one person, I have to use another of my students to write his thesis and make sure that he gets his PhD, and at least he feels relieved from the pain of going through the torture of, he was not even able to write things. Mental, the psychic disorder is such that it is very painful, very painful. So it is very important as of now. Our Vedic tradition teaches us mode of goodness cures everything. Literally, all psychic disorder can be taken care of by mode of goodness. Although we understand mode of goodness, but very few can appreciate even can appreciate what is mode of goodness. And hence, how do we bring this mode of goodness into the empirical science so that people will benefit? Why shouldn't we be a little compassionate? And we say, no, only very few people should know the mode of goodness, instead of bringing mode of goodness to everybody's life. And if empirical science is able to help it, so be it.
Yeah, That's very nice. I think we really need such things to come out. There is a question from Madhvi. So she's asking, you said, I just rephrased. So you said about the cognitive matter, means matter having cognitive attributes. So, but when we talk about enjoying, so for example, I'm eating something, I'm enjoying. So we derive pleasure from matter. So does the matter has its own capability of giving us pleasure, or how does the phenomenon act when you talk about in terms of cognitive matter? Can you explain that?
Okay. Matter at the very subtle level, matter at the very gross level is inert. Inert in the sense that it is it appears to be qualityless. But matter at a very subtle level is cognizant. So, what is matter? It's a you asked a question that requires a lot of concepts. First, I have to explain to you what is space, and then what is cognitive space. We only know that if I'm eating mango, then I am releasing a taste. Okay. But in that process of eating and releasing that sweetness of the mango, what is happening is there is a beautiful interaction of different cognitive space. Just to give you an idea here, what is mango? Mango, the sweetness of the mango resides in a very subtle space called water that carries the taste of the mango. And this earth, water, air, fire. Now, for example, what is the notion of space? Very few people understand what is space. I always ask this question in my class, what is space? Somebody say something empty. Somebody would say outside, everything outside me is space. Blah, 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 blah. So many things they say. But that's not space. Space is such a subtle idea that makes a distinction between two objects. Like Jyotishwar Prabhu is speaking and I am speaking. His voice and my voice are distinct. How? My voice and his voice, they occupy the same space. But there is a distinction. This is called nature of the space. In the nature, just like I have this object and I have another object. The space of this object cannot be captured by this object. This too. Okay. So space occupied by this, space occupied by this is distinct. I'm giving a very gross analogy. Similarly, the space occupied by my voice is a very abstract thing, and the voice of Jyotishwara distinct. And hence, I have an ethereal space within me. In that ethereal space, the voice of Jyotishvara and voice of mind have two distinct positions. Just like this has a distinct position, this is a distinct position. In the same way, there are 5 spaces: earth, water, air, fire, ether. Space of smell, space of taste, space of form, space of touch, and space of sound. So how do they interact among themselves? Itself is a big science. And we have done nothing about it as of now. So science has a very big possibilities to bring in the ideas of Bhagavat Samkhya and make science look much more beautiful than what it looks now. One of the beauty of current empirical science is that, even Prabhupada said, is that the acceptance, the subtle idea is more powerful, more expressive than the gross idea. And then in subtle structure, the gross is embedded, not necessarily the vice versa. So these are the things that have to be churned and then brought out. And it requires lifetime dedication by which we can bring out these things into science.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I have a question in this regard. So we in Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, we get to see the discussion between Lord Hamsa, the Hamsa avatar, Swan incarnation, and Lord Brahma. So they are talking about the mind and the sense objects. So which is in what? So they are kind of puzzled whether sense objects are embedded in the mind or mind is embedded in the sense objects. So
Both.
In terms of
mind,
this,
yes, mind is embedded into sense object. How? Because sense objects are expression of the mind.
okay.
They came out of mind. Okay? And sense objects rest in mind.
Could you elaborate what does that mean?
Just like that which is more subtler is the resting place for that which is gross.
Yes.
So sound is the resting place for all these 5 spaces that I talked about. Earth, water, air, fire, ether. Okay. Similarly, that is why when I say that body and mind are not different, but when body is finished, what remains is still mind.
Okay.
Okay. So this means this body rests on mind. Okay. When body is finished doesn't mean the resting place is fixed.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the very idea, the subtler, and that is why the absolute truth is the subtlest. So it is the ultimate resting place of everything.
Okay. So if I contrast with the modern reductionist understanding of science, we model everything in Cartesian space. So everything kind of treated as this competing existence. Just like you showed the speaker and the mobile. So they have competing existence. But in the holistic understanding of Samkhya, so one vessel containing a smaller vessel and then smaller vessel. So like that, the divisions and classifications as we get to see like mind, body, intelligence, ego, all these are to be understood in that way. Although we have divisions, but these are like subtler and bigger objects containing smaller objects. Is that correct understanding?
I won't say, yeah, subtler space.
Subtler
See,
space.
what is ultimately an object? Object is a space. What is space? Space is that which contains information, meaning.
Right.
Okay? So just like Earth is a space that contains information called smell. Ether is the space that contains the information called sound. Right? So now here, when I have not done any research, but based on authority, we understand the water is subtler than the earth. Fire is subtler than the water. Air is subtler than the fire. And so on. Mind is subtler than all these things. And it goes on. So the Samkhya aspect of evolution of matter is there is one subtlest thing that gave rise to subtler and subtler and subtler and subtler and subtler thing. Right? So one source, everything came about. This is how it is, right? The Samkhya philosophy. Samkhya philosophy is that the absolute truth originally is existing, and then it gave rise. It is the most subtlest thing, and then it has given rise to subtler and subtler thing, and that is how the variegated structure has come. So what is holism here? The holism here is that everything is contained in one resting place. Everything is contained in one resting place. This idea we do not have in empiric science. In empiric science, we don't have this idea of see, in empiric science, as of now, it is, see, let me correct myself now. The way the empiric science has evolved, it is non-purposive. It doesn't have a purpose. Whereas Vedantic empiric science will not be like that. Because in Bhagavat Samkhya, the process of evolution is purposive. Right? So what is mind? Mind is that which contains varieties of expressions. And these expressions need to get a shape. And hence, there is a need for sound because the mind wants to speak. Then there is the expression of happiness and pleasure through embrace and so forth, and the touch has to come. So the evolution is such, based on need, varieties of things are coming up. So that which are coming up becoming grosser and grosser and grosser. But the very core idea of behind the creation is within the meaning. So this meaning at the level of mind has everything within it, but it wants to be expressed. It gets expressed in the form of a flower. It gets expressed in the form of a poet. It gets expressed in the form of a scientist. It gets expressed in the form of an artist, right? So, but that expressive element, the cognitive element of mind, these very ideas are not there in empiric science as of now. Now, we know this. So what is harm to bring this idea within the empiric science and make it more beautiful? Okay? Yes. Because empiric science doesn't have these ideas, so it appears to be reductionist. But I am now proposing that we can bring these ideas and put into the empiric block and make it much more beautiful and aesthetic.
Yes. Yeah, that's very nice elaboration. Thank you very much for that. And in reply, Madhvi is asking, from the very one source came everything. That means unless the higher source, higher energy, spiritual energy touches the matter, it cannot activate. I mean, so where is that point of distinction? I mean, where something is propelling the activities of the subsequent things. Cartesian demarcation, I'm just adding on that. Cartesian demarcation, Rene Descartes divided mind and matter. There's a clear distinction. But as per this understanding, we don't see a clear distinction. It's a kind of continuum cascading through different level of subtlety. So any comments on that?
See, my point, if we start thinking like that, then we cannot do empiric science. To do empiric science, we have to put a closure. If we start, and that is why the Vedantic ideas have not been, they have not percolated within the empiric science because of this very mindset that ultimately it is the Brahman that energizes everything. Then you can't do empiric science. We can't do empiric science. We have to put a closure. And, even, I don't know how many of you have done this the current notion of physical or physics, where we look at input and output, and we want to give a representation, a dynamic representation between input and output in terms of sensitivity. That means, suppose Y is my output and U is my input. So dy upon du, if it exists, right, then I say it is first order. The system is minimum first order. Then I said d square y upon du square, second derivative. If that exists, then I say second, it's the second order system. And I can go on. And if I go on like that, probably I can never model the system, because majority of the system, if I go with a finer instrument, this will go on d infinity y upon du infinity, still there will be something. So we put a closure. We say, okay, now d square y upon du square, the variation is not much. We can say there's a closure, and we do this. And that is how we do the science.
Yeah, right.
Okay? And unless we accept this, and that is why we said this is fragmented. Okay, no natural system you can put a closure. But to do science, we put this closure. Similarly, at some level, it is not that let me tell you, I am not talking that I am going to study mind. Mind I cannot catch. All that I'm telling you, I have understood studying Bhagavat Samkhya, that my body is mind itself. These cells, forget about, I can say this body is the Atman itself. Yes, Atman itself. If Atman is not there, the body is not there. Gone. For instead of putting a closure at the Atman, why not I put a closure in the mind? I am not even putting a closure in the mind. I am putting the closure itself in the body. I say this is mine. Let's study. And these are beautiful ideas. And this very thing can bring us a new dimension into the science. So instead of studying these cells in cognitive, in ignorant, if I start understanding them to be a cognitive elements, I get a much better idea. And they are cognitive because they are resting in the original, instead of saying original cognitive space, we can say a reflective cognitive space, which is called mind. Because if you accept the Brahman as the original cognitive space, then false ego, intelligence, these are all reflective cognitive space. That's fine. But then every aspect of my living body is also a cognitive, there. So yes, I see there are so many things that has been embedded within Bhagavat Samkhya. Unless we do some research, fundamentally we, as of now, I don't want to speculate much, but all that I'm saying is that let us start looking at the various aspects of a living body to be a mental element, then saying that they are made up of helium, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium. That's all I'm saying. And this will do a great deal of, because empiric science is very powerful. The methodology is very powerful. The entire world has been vaccinated, isn't it? It's because of empirical science. And we cannot simply go on and saying this is all nonsense. No, empiric science is very powerful. We must use it for a better purpose. So that's what I'm saying. So instead of, considering this body made up of, this nitrogen, calcium, potassium, and blah, 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 why not we consider them as cognitive elements? So that's the only small change. See, you cannot change the empiric science big margin. We have to go in a very short step. Now, in the time of Newton, nobody had this idea of dou P upon dou T. Nobody knew this. What is dou P upon dou T? Now anybody writes, whether you are a chemistry, anywhere you write these kind of expression, left and right, it has become so pervasive. So we have to start somewhere and take a small leap, take our ideas, and can we give empiric science a little boost? That is how we should start thinking. I think it is already 6:17.
Yeah.
Should we continue?
Maybe just one last question. Maybe can answer it quickly. So Brijesh Mathur asked, when you talk about observation, I feel there are two kinds of observation. I just rephrase this question. So one is external observation, you are observing something outside you, and there is internal, the introspection, where you are observing inside you. So do you make a distinction, or how does that, I mean, the difference between the observation both sides?
There is nothing called inside observation or outside observation. It's a hallucination. You think that you are observing me in the computer screen. That is hallucination. We are not even empiricists. You are observing me. You are not observing me. You are observing within yourself. In the space, the space of fire within you is making an observation of another space of fire. We can only say like that. This internal observation and external observation, so many ways. See, when I have transcended myself beyond the senses and observed myself, that means the pure self. This is called as internal observation. And when I am situated in my senses and I observe, we say this is external observation because this is not me. So this is how the Vedantist would say. But the very idea of observation, see, observation is happening in different space. Space is cognitive. Every space is observing. And one space is observing the another space. Space of fire observes another space of fire. Space of sound observes another space of sound. And these are all very profound concepts. And there is nothing called internal and external observation here. Space of space of fire cannot observe something that is of its nature, right? So these are so this observer and observed is very, very important concept. Let me tell you, these are all spatial interaction, or we can also say spatio-temporal interaction. So all your thought, all your ideas are simply a spatio-temporal structure. And I just add there one extra word called semantic. Semantic spatio-temporal structure. So there is two view of the world. One view is one representation of the world is the spatio-temporal structure, because everything, suppose an experience. I hear the bits of mridanga, and I hear the flute, right? So this two, flute and the drum or mridanga. These two sound, they are sound. But in the space of sound, or the space of ether, they are distinct. They are not mixed. Just like, suppose you, in the water, you mix two liquid, two soluble things, you can't separate one from another. But this cognitive, semantic cognitive space is such, you cannot mix them. In my cognitive sound space, the flute, the information of the flute, or its space cannot be occupied by another structure. It will not allow. Just like oil cannot mix with water. Similarly, in the cognitive space, this flute and drum, they cannot mix. They cannot mix. So these are, see, we have to read these things, hear these things, and we have to do a lot of brainstorming how to bring them, because I had invested how to make, how to create a cognitive ethereal space in which the bits and the flute, they will occupy distinct space. Whenever somebody is playing the flute, my ethereal space, the flute, the zone of flute only will be resonated. All others will remain inactive. We didn't succeed because it requires a lot of work. How do we do it? It's very tough, and that is what is this. We don't have to look at this body in terms of the cell, blood, and all these things. No, this is amazing. This whole living body is so amazing, and these 5 spaces are so beautifully arranged, and how they're arranged. And this is the beautiful composition of the most beautiful creator. So it's all beautiful. So empiric science should not be tagged as reductionist. Empiric science as of now is reductionist because it has not started from a proper authority. Okay, so empiric science should not be tagged always as reductionist. But empiric science, we have to put a closure. Otherwise, you can't generate an empiric science. We have to put a closure. Just like I explained to you how sensitivity, in sensitivity analysis, we put a closure and then we give a dynamic order to a system, first order, second order, third order. Many times we want to study the system only as a first order system. So we violently put a closure to second and do the science. Okay, and as long as it works, we are very happy. Okay, all that I'm saying, that empiric science also can be done, bringing the ideas of Bhagavat Samkhya, and we can still do the empiric science. That's the only thing I'm saying. And empiric science is a benediction. Let me tell you, it's a benediction. So if we combine the Vedantic idea and the power of empiric science together, I think there is a great hope to make human civilization better.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for such profound deliberation. We are so pleased to hear all these things. We have many questions now, but we cannot entertain now. Maybe on some later occasion, we would request you. So if you could be available, we can have more questions. So for now, it's already 1.5 hours. So thank you so much for taking out time in your physics schedule.
Thank,
So
yeah.
it's
Thank you, Professor Lakshmidhar. He has given us 28 minutes more than our scheduled time because his another program was scheduled to start at 6 o'clock. So we are very sorry for that. And thank you, Professor, for the taking so much of pain for accommodating us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So
Okay. Thank you.
thank you so much.
I wish you all the best. Happy New Year to all our participants here. Happy New Year to all of you. I hope that you would ask right questions so that empiric science can become better. Instead of cursing empiric science, let us make it more beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank
So
you.
I have a few announcements to make. So I would request the participants if they can stay back for a few minutes, just 2-3 minutes more. So in this series of discussions we have now, the next 3-4 classes would be taken by eminent scholar, Vaishnava scholar. He's Dr. Howard Resnick, His Holiness Hridayanand Swami. So he would be talking, we titled his deliberations on dispelling dogma. It would be again similar format. So he would describe few topics briefly, maybe 10-15 minutes. Then you can come up with any question that you have in your mind, whether it is any confusion that stops you embracing spirituality wholeheartedly. It could be your personal issues, it could be your philosophical issues, it could be the dogmas you think that is there in philosophy or spirituality, in science, anything you can bring up. So we are extremely fortunate that Dr. Howard Resnick agreed to our request, and he would be with us on 9th, 16th, and 23rd January. But the timing would not be 5:30 as our customary timing for Sunday seminars. Instead, since he is in California, it's 13.5 hours behind us. So he agreed for 7:30 in the evening for us. So that would be his 6:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. So I would request all of you in this coming week, please deliberate on your doubts, your questions, and you can send us beforehand also so that your question gets prioritized. And so I would request you can invite all your friends. It's a very eye-opening session. So I would request all of you to invite all your friends, whoever has interest in approaching spirituality rationally. So it's a very wonderful session. Then we have, as we already announced, we have a very specialized program called Art and Science for Practical Spirituality, ASPS. We already had a previous successful batch. So we are conducting the next batch of it. So it's a 3 months 3 months deliberation. We call it 5Ps because we cover Swadhyay, we cover science spirituality dialogues, we talk about Sambandh, that means open-hearted question answer sessions. We talk about etiquettes of being a spiritualist. We talk about, of course, the core of spirituality, the sadhana, the mantra meditation, and other. So it's a 3 months course. We expect 80% of attendance for the certificate to be received, and we divide in smaller sections. It's free of cost. So all those who are in science, philosophy, theology, maths, statistics, any branch that has something to do with rational inquiry, so they are welcome to be part of this group, this study course. I already circulated the link on this chat box. So if you haven't yet registered, you can register it now. So now, and also if some of you are interested in ISS research activities, so they can visit this link, issdelhi.org/join, and they can submit their request, and subsequently our team members will be in touch with you, and you can be part of our ongoing research activities. And this is a Sunday seminar. Usual timing is 5:30. So And then in May 2022, as many of you have attended last time, we are conducting the second 3S International Conference. It would be targeting the environmental sustainability through simpler and spiritual lifestyle. And these are our contact details, and you can visit our YouTube link. So you can visit our other social media handles. So our YouTube link contains many more than 140 videos, deliberations on the interface of science and spirituality. So you can take benefit of that. So for today, this is all I can say. Thank you very much for being part of us. And if you have any questions, anything, you can mail us, you can write to us, you can WhatsApp us. So in our subsequent sessions, we will try to answer this. Thank you.
Even if somebody has anything you want to ask about ISS activities and other things, you can still ask.
Any of you have any questions regarding any general questions regarding ISS activities? Okay, so
Can I ask?
yeah, please.
I just want to ask because after this September, after the couple of months, I am attending the program. So I just want to ask that I should start from a new batch, or I should continue in this only.
Have you ever attended any previous programs?
Not on this subject, but previously I was attended the last program from the Piyush Goyal, I think from IIT Kharagpur. He has given the program on artificial intelligence and something like that.
Okay. You're talking about Sunday seminars. Yeah, he talked about.
Yes, Sunday seminars.
Yeah, so these are there is no prerequisite for attending this, so they are open to all. So every Sunday we conduct this kind of seminars on different topics. But apart from that, we have some regular courses which are dedicated. We talk about core practice of spirituality and more one-to-one discussions. So that is this ASPS. So if you wish to wish to attend this, you can register for that. It's free of cost. By the way,
I just registered. I just fill up the form.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to know because I'm already attending the Gita learning classes from the ESCON Ujjain.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm also linked to the ESCON Bangalore and ESCON Vrindavan also.
Okay.
So some programs some programs are coincide, means they also used to run on Sunday. Yeah. So I just want to know that is ASPS is a so from where I should start? Means today I've attended.
ASPS is a separate. This Sunday seminar should continue. You can attend anytime. There is no requisite of attending everything. But ASPS one is a dedicated course, 3 months course. Usually.
So from which day it will start?
It would the 8th of forgot. Thank you. 8th of January, Saturday, 1 o'clock. In the form itself, you must have seen in the top banner. So 8th January, Saturday, 1 p.m. So we would have first orientation class. So even though you are attending other places, you can be part of it, this program, because this is more towards geared towards the interface of science and spirituality. We talk little more rationally than otherwise presented in a devotional way. That is also okay. But if you want to
understand, I just want to give my name because there was a column that and give your spouse name, but I'm a single. But on the contrary, but I want to give them name of my elder brother. He's working on the research on the cognitive mind.
Oh, nice.
So he's living in Silvassa near the Dadar Nagar Haveli Union Territory.
Okay.
So he's a 60 years old, very high knowledgeable researcher. So maybe he may be interested in that.
Sure, you can give him the link. And what exactly you want me to do in this regard?
Just share any program link on the YouTube. If there is any link, so I can send to him.
All these videos will be uploaded on YouTube, and these 3 months course. If you want the details of what we are going to cover, you can visit this link that I already pasted. Towards the end, you will see the syllabus that we are going to cover.
Okay.
That way you'll have a better understanding. I think same question is asked by Ritika Samarth. I also want to be part of the 3 months course. Yeah, you can visit this link, and towards the end, you will find a detailed description of the syllabus that we are covering. So you can,
Okay.
yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, Shankar, yeah, please.
Yeah, Jyotish Prabhu. Yes, I have one question.
Please.
Actually, I have joined ASPS 1, right? So ASPS 1 level 1. So can I join it again, because a few classes I have missed some notes on it actually. So I will be recreate my all the notes and revise everything.
Sure, no problem. As you wish.
So I will repeat my knowledge like with like refreshing all the knowledges. Yes.
Maybe I would request you, if you can make proper notes, then we can circulate to everyone. So last time we planned, but it never materialized.
I can even if this is the scenario, then I can create all the notes, and then we can circulate for a it's a summary wise and it's elaborate, and people can revise it. Yes.
Right.
So
That would be nice. Yeah.
I can do that thing simultaneously as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the favor. Yeah.
Yes. Sure. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else who wants to ask something? Okay, if not, so thank you very much for being a part of this program, and we are really grateful to all your enthusiasm for all these months you have been attending our classes. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.